Odell Beckham Jr. trade rumors, what it might mean for the New York Giants in an NFL offseason that has featured blockbuster trade after blockbuster trade. Another star player could be on the block. NFL media's Ian Rappaport reported on Monday that New York Giants wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. will not report to training camp absent a new contract. In turn, the Giants are willing to discuss the Beckham trade should they receive the right offer. There's a whole heck of a lot to unearth here, so let's take it step by step. Beckham's current contract. The three-time Pro Bowler signed a 4-year, $10.4 million deal with New York after the team selected him 12th overall back in 2014. Like all rookie contracts under the current collective bargaining agreement, that came with a 5th-year team option. New York exercised this option last off-season, which means OBJ is set to earn $8.5 million next season. He'll become an unrestricted free agent once the 2018 campaign draws to a conclusion. Beckham's 2018 salary ranks him outside the 20 highest-paid receivers in the NFL. Based on his production in his first 3 seasons, 288 receptions for 4,122 yards and 35 touchdowns, Beckham is right in concluding that he's underpaid. It's hard to objectively counter that argument. But there are also other variables that have to play a role in New York's decision-making process. Other factors: Beckham has been fined a whopping 10 times for either violations of the NFL uniform policy or on-field shenanigans, and that has made him an enigmatic figure within the organization. He was also suspended for 1 game for a blatantly egregious hit on then Carolina Panthers cornerback Josh Norman in December 2015. Obviously, this has to play a role in the Giants' decision-making. Some will conclude that OBJ is passionate about the game. That's fine. But there's a sense that said passion could have an adverse impact on his team moving forward. Off the field, there's that whole Miami boat trip incident during the 2016 NFL playoffs, which showed the lack of maturity on Beckham's part. At the very least, the Giants could use that as a negotiating tactic in extension talks. We then have the receiver's injury-plagued 2017 campaign, which saw him miss all but 4 games because of a broken ankle. For someone who relies a ton on his short area speed, this could potentially be a long-term issue. It could also play a role in contract negotiations. So while Beckham has proved himself to be among the most productive receivers in modern NFL history, there's a lot more to this situation than the difference he makes on the field. Potential contract extension figures: despite the factors mentioned above, the baseline for a new Beckham contract has to be the 5-year, $82.5 million deal Mike Evans agreed to with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers earlier in the offseason. That deal made Evans the highest-paid receiver in the game and guaranteed him $55 million. No objective person would conclude that Evans is even on the same planet as Beckham in terms of either talent or production. This means an extension would have to be dramatically higher than the figures we saw in Evans' deal. Beckham also has some power in negotiations because he's entering a contract year. Let's say the two sides don't come to terms on an extension before he hits free agency next March. That would likely force New York to place the dreaded franchise tag on its star receiver, guaranteeing him what would be north of $16 million for the 2019 campaign. Interestingly enough, that's about the annual average Evans received in his new deal. All of this seems to indicate that a deal valued at $18 million or more per season over 5 years, with at least $65 million guaranteed, should be in the cards for Beckham. Whether the Giants are comfortable paying that remains to be seen. But it's looking more and more like the team is not willing to invest so much in him. Could the Giants really trade Beckham? The short answer to this question is a resounding yes. As we saw with the Giants last season, drama can't tear apart a locker room. Whether it was Eli Apple's spat with Landon Collins or the mid-season firing of then-coach Ben Mikado, it just wasn't a culture indicative of success. If the Giants really do think OBJ is going to hold out until he receives a new deal, it's reasonable to think that the team will look to move on from him. Beyond a franchise quarterback, players are more the sum of the team's entire parts. It's a basic corporate model we've seen teams utilize in recent years. Is Beckham, and the drama he brings, worth stunting the Giants' rebuilding process? I'm not entirely sure. But the Giants have soured on their star receiver to the point that they're apparently leaking the possibility of trading him. That in and of itself should tell us where the team stands. Yes, this includes a possible trade. What would the trade look like? Someone of Beckham's ilk would normally fetch a high first-round pick. Is he a more talented receiver, with more of a proven track record, than the ones coming out in the 2018 NFL Draft? The answer to that is an obvious yes. It's also important to know that OBJ is 25, just 2 years older than the top receiver in the class, Calvin Ridley. However, with something of this magnitude, it's about a lot more than what a specific player provides on the field. Any team deciding to make a play for Beckham would have to weigh other aspects. That includes the injury-plagued season OBJ is recovering from and the financials. Not only would said team be forced to dole out a valuable draft pick for the receiver, it would then have to make him the highest paid player at his position in the NFL. Taking into account the litany of issues we've seen with OBJ in New Jersey, the value Beckham's current team would receive in a trade might decrease some. New York is said to be looking for at least one first-round pick in exchange for Beckham. That's fair. But there would likely be more moving parts, notably, the Giants sending the pick or two the other way. How would it impact the Giants? If the Giants were to indeed trade Beckham, the idea would be to go into full-scale rebuild mode. Based on what we've seen this off-season, it doesn't look like the team is willing to do that. Simply put, a Giants offense without its top receiver in the mix would be among the bottom 10 in the NFL. We saw this firsthand when OBJ was sidelined last season. We've also seen how poorly Eli Manning has performed without his top receiver in the mix. Manning has thrown 66 touchdowns and 29 interceptions, with a 91.5 passer rating, in games that Beckham has played. He has as many interceptions as touchdowns, 14 in games that OBJ has missed. That's a clear split. It tells us the story of a quarterback who isn't even average when his top receiver is out of action. The decision to trade OBJ would be the Giants' way of drawing the line in the sand. They're not going to be taken hostage by a player in contract negotiations. The team's first-year general manager, Dave Gettleman, demonstrated that same resolve while he was with the Carolina Panthers, rescinding the franchise tag the team placed on Josh Norman. He wants to set a new tone in New York. Whether that means the Giants are willing to impact their short-term ability to contend by trading Beckham remains to be seen.